So as you were growing up, did you know what you wanted to be, and was a presidency, given all of these campaigns you're in, always a goal?
Nope, I wanted to be a school teacher because my dad had put it in me. And when I went to the first school I went to in Cambridge, Berkeley, the junior high, I took Spanish, and it was taught by Isabel Ochoa, the only teacher I ever saw in my life, maybe ever, who wore high heels and silk suits and jewelry and earrings and ran it. I remember we had to learn what looked like KSL Burrow, which is what I said when we had to come back and do our homework. I was reading and I said KSL Burrow, and she said, burro. Don't let me ever hear you say burrow. Burro. And I was like, I want to be like that. But anyway, my dad is the first model. Isabel Ochoa was the second model. I always wanted to be a teacher, so as time went on and I got to do other things, it moved from being an elementary school teacher to a high school teacher to being a college teacher. I always wanted to be a teacher.
So can you talk a little bit about the road to the presidency, how it started as far as your early career?
The road to the presidency began when I learned to read in Winding Gulf, West Virginia, because I think what took me to a presidency was in the various jobs that I had. I was often treated like I was a leader of something. And I guess that was my manner, maybe. I'm sure it was the youth group training we had in that St. Augustine's Episcopal Church. I think it was also my parents' expectancy, because in high school, for example, my mom found out that if you're going to go to the University of California, Berkeley, you not only have college prep, but you have to have their requirement, which was a little different. It was called the A to F requirement. If you didn't know the A to F requirement, you had college prep, but you didn't have A to F. You only had A to E. So she told me to make sure the counselor knew that I didn't just want college prep, I wanted Cal College prep. And she told the counselor every now and then. It wasn't resisted, it's just that apparently often they didn't tell that to black kids. They thought they were going to either the community college, which we call junior college, or there was a great college across the bay, San Francisco State College, where most black kids went. And it was good, there was nothing wrong with it.
But that wasn't your choice for where you wanted
Well,
to
I
go.
lived up the street from the University of California. My mother worked for professors at the University of California. Why wouldn't I be going to the University of California? But I said that it's not that I was always elected, always. It wasn't that everything was always great for me academically or professionally. It was just, I think I looked like I thought I should be something. And I did think I should be something, but it wasn't called president. So in any event, after living here and then going to Africa many, many times, early in the game, my first trip to Africa was in 1966. I went with my husband, whom I had married, of course, by then. Came home one day, said, I wonder find out how much it costs to go to Africa. I was like, okay. We had met several people who had lived in Ghana, and several Ghanaians. And that was a time when we all knew Kwame Nkrumah was the president, and he was doing some kind of interesting trans-oceanic relationships. He went to a historically black college in America, so he knew African Americans better than some of the African dignitaries who were coming up then. And I have to interject that because that also had something to do with my worldview. But to ask your question about the presidency, no, I did not have presidency on my mind. I went to Meharry Medical College eventually, and I became an associate dean in the School of Medicine. My job was to work with faculty on teaching skills, meaning that since the faculty was medical, they were not necessarily formally trained as teachers, yet they were teaching people. So there was a Department of Family Medicine that concentrated on that, and my job was to work with faculty on teaching skills. And I did that through the Department of Family Medicine that had a specialty in that way. And I was eventually promoted to Associate Dean. I was the first woman associate dean in the School of Medicine, which
How
had,
was that, being the first woman in that role?
that was very interesting because it was a very male-dominated environment, both actually and probably mentally. And it wasn't that it was negative, it was new. And I didn't have a bad experience, but I was aware that as a trainer who was not a physician, training a physician was sort of a foreign experience for some. And it was just interesting. Not negative, it was challenging. I just had to, I felt that the general look at that was, let's see how this goes. And so my job was to make it go well. I felt confident that I could do it, and so that's what happened. Now this is after my husband and I went to Stanford and got PhDs in education. I was looking for a faculty job, and he had a postdoc at Vanderbilt, which took us to Nashville from the beautiful Bay Area in the San Francisco area, where we were never going to live anywhere but there, for 9 months to Nashville, where we stayed for 15 years. I eventually got a job at Vanderbilt. I had a job at Vanderbilt as an adjunct, and then a job at Meharry. I went to Fisk immediately. Fisk didn't have an education department, so there wasn't really anything for me there. I went to TSU, Tennessee State University, which might have been offering me a job at some point, but it was big and huge, and they had lots of people with doctorates. And someone said, go to Meharry. And I was like, why would I go to Meharry? I'm neither a dentist nor a physician, but they had this role. So I was dean, associate dean, enjoyed it.